Welcome back to the Frontend Coffee Break, episode 43. Chucho, how are you this fine evening?
I'm good in general terms. A little bit sick, but good. Other than that, so
Yeah, something's
ready
going on.
to
Also,
tackle
I'm feeling something.
something. Hello, Ricard.
Are you ready to tackle
And
problems and complain about Frontend?
I'm always ready to complain. And well, we complain about Frontend. Yeah, I'm game. I'm in.
Yes, this is a podcast where we complain about Frontend, get a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and just spend some time with us chatting about Frontend. And here I am to complain, man. This week has been bad. It's 2025, Chucho, and still you get such bad mobile experiences on the web that I'm like, really? Like in this year and age, like, can you just do better?
Well, ideally, yes. After all the time that has been that we've had phones in our lives, when was the first iPhone specifically? I think that the game changer. When did it came first? 2009, 2012? I don't know, but it's definitely been over 10 years that we've had mobile devices in our lives, and they're the primary mode of how people connect and use the internet. I would be very surprised to find pages that are not ready to be new pages, at least that are not ready to be used through the phone.
Surely they are ready, but sometimes they're not like optimized or let's say really thought through in mobile first. Right? The other day I was trying to attempt to buy some train tickets. I will not say in what website or in what country's national railroad website, but you would assume that when you're doing a checkout on a shop, no, in this case, train tickets, you would want to see the summary of what you're about to purchase. Like what is the time of departure, what is the location of the departure, and all these things. And
yes,
I was
sure
not able.
That you're buying.
Yeah, exactly. Before doing the actual, click here to submit your the thing. And believe it or not, I was on mobile and I was not able to see the full information. There was some information that was cut off from the screen because there was some sort of an accordion weird model, something that when you expanded it, there was just too much information and the scroll didn't work. I could not see it. So because I'm a developer, I said, okay, let me try something else. And I flipped my phone horizontally. That changed the media queries. And then I could see it because it jumped to a different sort of view, right? So the phone horizontally would allow me to see all the summary before booking, but vertically, it wasn't working. And I'm like, this is a core journey. Like this website is to book tickets online. And the core like use case for this website is to do this. So how this functionality, which again is so core, it's buying and then summary before buying, click buy, does not work correctly on mobile. I don't understand.
I'm really surprised because I think that a lot of people buy their tickets through the phone, definitely more than at home. You might be talking to a friend, or you might be just heading on to work, or you might be somewhere like, hey, I have a little bit of time. Oh, I need to buy the ticket, buy my ticket, and then you take out your phone. Although I usually buy, for example, in my case, especially because lately I have been buying train tickets for work. I've been doing it in my laptop. But the times that I haven't been buying them from work, I usually buy them on the phone. I start looking for them there, and that's how I try to to get them. And I do it when I get the time. Not always. I don't always have the time to do it in front of a computer. So I'm really surprised that this happened.
Yeah, I mean, you can purchase it. It's not like you cannot purchase it, but seeing the full information was cut off from the screen, right? And I was like, oh, maybe it's a generational thing. I know that they say that millennials, they like to purchase things on laptops and on big screens. Like they feel more secure, more safe. And it's true. I mean, maybe because again, I'm a developer, front developer, I don't know, but I don't like purchasing like expensive things on a phone because I want to see more information. Maybe I want to do some research. I want to like, okay, one tab for my purchase, second tab for my bank statement, that it went correctly, things like that, right? And the phone, for me, it's not convenient. It's not convenient. But maybe again, it's not me. Maybe it's the websites that are not ready to give me like a good experience on mobile, and that's why I don't like feel as secure or I don't know, man.
I would go for the second option right now. I mean, truly, it's. I'm also more of a visual person, and I'd rather have more information that I can visually see at the same time. But then again, I uh, do some purchases on the phone, especially when I'm not at home. I'm outside the house for whatever reason I suddenly need something, or remember that I have to buy something, or I have time and I'm not at home, and I usually do use the phone. But yeah, it is a little bit hard sometimes to. I usually also do it when you're going to buy something that you know that you've already said, okay, I need to buy this. You already know what it is. You already have trust in the website. Um, just lately, for example, there's one of the things that I've bought, I guess, like this, but the most is tickets to events. You're out with friends, maybe taking a beer, maybe drinking a little bit of coffee, and you mention, hey, there's going to be this event is going to happen this on this night, or next in the week we're going to go to this place, and you say, oh, well, I want to go. I'm going to try to buy the ticket at that point, and that's, I guess, the main use case that I've been using to buy things lately. So it is very, very important, and I'm surprised. Especially, did you say that, as you say, maybe millennials, maybe the older you are not that used to new technologies. But just looking at statistics, just bare statistics, I think that right now, 62% or between 62 and 63% of the world traffic, web traffic, internet traffic, is done through a phone. That excludes tablets. So it's not portable devices, it's phones, 63%. And it's estimated that up to 94%, no, 96% of the people have used or used the phone at one point to navigate for internet. So that means that most of the population, most of the world uses the phone at one time or another to at least surf the web. So it is, I think that it's very important to have a approach where you support, like, for example, the user journey through a phone. And this kind of oversights, the one that you saw, like if you just had to flip your phone horizontally and you could see it, it's not that it's going to get that much more resolution. I'm really
No,
surprised
it's
that
a few
just
pixels.
flipping the
But
phone.
I guess it jumped a media query and then it did something different. It was just a media query jump. So anyway, so we're talking about all the time mobile first, mobile first. What the heck is mobile first? I mean, it could be that our listeners don't know. So Chucho, please enlighten me. Mobile first. When? How?
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about a bit of history of responsive design. Mobile first, in the end, it's when you start working or designing or building a website, thinking first of the mobile experience and then expanding on adding for the desktop and other experiences. But this is, although it seems sort of, you might think that it's sort of new, especially with phones being rather new. It really, this has been something that people have thought about for many, many years. Um, the term mobile first was first introduced, I have this in my notes, in 2009 by Luke Wroblowski. Sorry for the mispronunciation. But it was popularized 1 year later in the Mobile World Congress 2010 by Eric Schmidt, the then CEO of Google. So this term has at least 25, 26 years that's been with us. No, 20, sorry, 16.
15, 16? Yes.
15, 16 years that's been there. So it's quite a bit of time. But this is that's regarding specifically mobile first, but responsive designs or designs that adapt the screen have been longer with us. Doing a little bit of research, there's this guy Glenn Davis that mentions around 1997 something regarding liquid layouts. He basically mentions that a liquid page will resize to whatever size browser window you have within reason. So the idea is that back then you had other different sizes, screen sizes, especially because depending on how big your screen or the resolution that you had. So the idea is that when you design a web page, don't do a fixed design, but do a liquid design. And that was a liquid layout. That's what was back in 1997. So it's been some time since then. Then there's a little bit of about, and this is something that I just found out this time around, that in 2004, Cameron Adams wrote a blog post where he detailed a method of using JavaScript to swap out different style sheets based on the size of the browser window. So if you were having a smaller screen, you would use one style, and if you had a bigger screen, it swapped the CSS and loaded a bigger screen. But I think that the biggest resolution came around the mobile first concept in 2010 with Ethan Marcote, that published an article in Alista Part. That's, for me, that was the first time that I was introduced to something similar, where he basically talked about flexible web design. And he talked about fluid grids, flexible images, and media queries to create an experience on the same website without swapping CSS and such, that could adapt to different screen sizes. And I mean, from there to the moon, that's a little bit of history regarding on mobile first or responsive designs.
Yeah, and I think we all been there. We've all done like fluid sort of UIs and use media queries. But I think like mobile first, it's beyond just using media queries to hide content and show content, because that's just too easy, right? If you say, okay, there's too much content on desktop, I'm going to show less stuff on mobile, or I'm going to make the buttons smaller or things like that. I think that's what we should be doing. Like thinking mobile first is a change in the paradigm. Okay, let's go through the steps of developing a product or a feature, and from the concept through design and the implementation, everybody's thinking mobile first, right? The client is thinking mobile first, the designers are thinking mobile first, and then when we move to desktop, but not like, okay, we have all this information that I need in the screen, put it somehow, and then on the desktop we make it bigger. Or more space. That's not it, right? I mean, you need to design. People have a phone. They have slow connections. They have like a smaller screen, the thumb, the touch. It's different, like a way of using it and interacting with a website, and that should be taken into account, not just the real estate, right? It's not just having less pixels, but the whole thing, right? And I don't think many designers or product owners, coders even, like think about this.
No, and as you say, the interesting thing is that mobile first is not just design. It's an entire experience. When you're designing or you're working to create a website that is mobile first, it has to follow certain guidelines, not only, as you say, design, which is very and probably one of the most important ones, but also the performance wise. You have to think of what do you really need for a phone before. Do you need everything that you would need if they were looking at the desktop? How would you handle that performance? Images. I mean, I've seen websites that just load huge images because they don't have any other option. They just say, okay, it is designed for mobile screen, but you still load the same image as you would be loading in the desktop. And that's just a few of the issues. We'll talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, but nowadays, Chucho, the picture element, like it's supported everywhere. I don't understand. Picture element, just put different resolutions on it. Use, of course, modern like formats, quote unquote modern, WebP, and if you are cool like me, AVIF format. Just use that and reduce a lot. Like how are we talking about images still in 2025? It's just Chucha.
Well, because there's a lot of things, especially depending on when you start doing a website, people sometimes, companies especially, they don't always have the luxury of having front-end developers, for example, or people that are more specialized in front-end. They have maybe web developers, maybe they're starting, maybe they don't have that much experience, they're learning, and they won't necessarily do it the best way. But it's I think that it's important to reach out to say that, hey, there's many ways to do things better. Worry about performance and try to learn how to work with that. But the funny thing is that I've heard the argument as well that, hey, why I have an iPhone 16, for example. I don't have an iPhone 16, but people may say, hey, I have an iPhone 16. I have a Samsung Galaxy, whatever. This is not product placement. I have this fantastic but very powerful phone, and I live in a place where I have a super fast connection. So I develop a website and look at it. It's like, oh, it looks fantastic. I don't see what the issue is. And people might say, why would you need to take care of performance, especially with the devices that we have today and the internet speeds? Well, not everybody has those devices. That's one thing. Not everybody lives in a place that they have access to fast internet. That doesn't mean that they live in a different country, but just in the middle of nowhere, you might not have that speed. And not everybody has the not everybody is connected all the time. Like, for example, even if you're living in a city that has first grade connections, you might be in the subway, you might be inside a building, and the connection might be lousy. So you do have to take into account, you do have to care about creating a good experience for the phone. And I think in the end, it's the most important thing is about the experience. You have to think about how you can optimize the experience for the user, and not having to go through what you went with the website trying to buy a ticket.
You're on point, Chucho. I think it for me, it all goes down or boils down to accessibility, right? I mean, if you are a developer, then you say, because we use modern phones and modern laptops, I don't care about low performance devices. It's just accessibility issue. You are cutting off certain people from accessing your website because it will take 10 seconds to load, or simply it will not load. And I understand that sometimes it's not the developer's decision, but maybe a owner client decision that they say we will not invest in this because we've checked our analytics and it's 0.5%. I don't know the numbers, and we don't care. Then okay, fine. I mean, in the end, you are working for a client, but you should advise them first to, hey, let's do it correctly, let's be accessible. And if they don't want to do it, fine. But please, as a developers, I think we have the responsibility to advise on, okay, this is the most performant way. We should always try on real devices or like emulations, but throttle down the CPUs and the connections, as you said. Try spotty connections, try no connection. What happens when you go offline? I mean, do you at least show a message saying, hey, we couldn't perform this action, try again later? Or it's a 404. So it's like, come on.
So these issues, this experience issues, besides for example, the unoptimized images or videos, what other things would you think people usually don't take into account when they're developing websites, even if they're thinking about mobile development?
Yeah, I think it's shipping the whole thing, right? I think you had a great experience with optimizing CSS for different like performance, and it's if you ship the whole website to mobile, that doesn't make sense. Like you ship all the JavaScripts, you ship all your CSS, but then with media queries, you simply hide content. That's not a more first approach, right? You should say, okay, this component maybe has a different set of JavaScript, but we'll only include in mobile, and then something else in desktop, as well as, I don't know, widgets, third parties, analytics, whatever it is, but not like, it's just not shrinking a big website to a smaller screen. That's a mistake here. So ship less, please.
Okay, so you have less images, less content, less CSS, less JavaScript.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then one of the worst experiences that I have especially when I'm in the subway, even if I have a decent connection, is when you're trying to read the news. And I think we've discussed this before. Having to wait for the page to load, I don't know how many third-party JavaScripts, I don't know how many things, just so that you can read an article that, I don't know, that occupies basically nothing. And still, you have to wait a lot of time just to read. And I think that's completely ridiculous. But wow.
But Chucho, how are they going to pay the bills if they don't put 3,000 ads and 2,000 widgets for I don't know what?
And this is what you think. If they do a mobile first approach, if they think about mobile first, they still can. They still can show the user the article that they want to read, and then while the rest of the things are loading, just add the ads somewhere, but that it's not intrusive for the user. I mean, you still can do it, but well, analytics, for example, is one of the worst things that kills the mobile experience. But there are ways to still have analytics and still not have to make the experience for the user bad.
Yeah, as we said, with everything, like you could simply drop the script for whatever analytics provider you're using, or you could do something else focused on performance, saying, okay, let's progressive enhance, let's lazy load, there's two types of developers. The one that drops the script and, okay, it's fine, it's done. And the other that, like, you care about, okay, how can we make it performance? I mean, analytics are important, and maybe the end user doesn't really care, but of course for brands, it's important for them to track like behavior and knowing how they perform. So it's important to them, but let's try to find the most optimal solution that fits the brand and also fits the end user when they're in a slow connection.
Definitely. How I remember on this direction, I've seen a couple of things done to try to optimize mobile first, although some of them have been a little bit over the edge. One of them was some years ago that we were working. I think I've mentioned this at one of the websites that I was working with, precisely because we were trying to get a mobile first or mobile oriented approach. Um, we okay, they're knocking at the door. I need to see who it is. So okay, so it wasn't the door; it was the window. Sorry, they're fixing the building. So, and well, anywho, where were we?
We're talking about, I don't know, analytics, performance, loading mobile first, not loading all the assets when you're on mobile versus desktop, things like that.
Yes. One of the projects that I work with, and I think I've mentioned it, we wanted to precisely to make the websites as performance as we could, and we went on the direction that you mentioned, that we separated the the CSS in two parts. One that was for mobile, one that was for desktop. We always loaded the mobile ones, and then eventually, if we detected that the device was desktop, we loaded the rest. We knew that desktops wouldn't be having an issue with that, and phones would definitely be happy about not having to load everything. It was interesting. I mean, just like that, there are many other ways that you can improve the performance of your website, and sometimes it's very simple. And I am really surprised on people not wanting to work on this, because there's consequences if you're not giving the user a good experience, a good mobile experience.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's also like lack of knowledge, right? I mean, I understand not everybody's up to date with latest trends or like ways of doing it in the browser, but generally, I think it's optimized, like optimize the hell out of everything. Try to, if you're adding whatever CSS framework, Bootstrap, Tailwind, try to use a subset, not use the whole thing and things like that, and try to ship as lean websites as possible, and then we will find. Google will be happy for you, and yeah. So consequence. Now that I mentioned Google, I have here a list of things that we could say will impact you if you don't behave correctly in mobile first. So first of all, of course, indexing, as you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, that Eric Schmidt from Google, they said, yeah, mobile first indexing is going to be a thing, and it happened, right? I mean, now if you have a poor mobile experience, they will rank you lower than if you have a higher mobile experience. So that's number one.
I think that is a very, very important one.
Thank you, Google. Yeah, I mean, they pushed us, and they pushed everybody to be better at mobile. What else? High bounce rates, like, yeah, of course, if you go into, I remember that crazy story from Amazon, like if they drop what was it, like 300 milliseconds later or something like that, the page load, they will lose like millions in revenue. It was crazy. Maybe not to that extreme, but definitely I feel it. You feel it when you go to a website, online shop, whatever, and it loads slowly. You just go back and go to the next result. So you will lose money if your site is not fast.
Especially if you're reading, as I said, once again, what you mentioned, even if you're reading an article and they want to show publicity, well, if you're loading too slow because you want to show publicity, they won't even be there to see the publicity. So that would be, I guess, a very big one.
No, what also else? Like branding, no? Like if you go to whatever is your news outlet, and then every time you go there, it takes like 10 seconds to load, you will just not go there for news anymore. You will say, okay, let me go to the next one. Or I mean, in the end, it's not only the whole thing is like the conversion, it's the SEO, and it's affecting your brand, your product. Saying people will not want to go back to your site. So yeah. All right. What else is there?
Well, also the accessibility. If you're not working on making sure that your website is mobile oriented and accessible, you also get penalized by people, or you penalize the people that are trying to use your website and simply can't.
And it's 2025. We have the European Act, and you will have to comply. Depending if your business is like certain categories, you have to comply. Otherwise, you might get fined. So please be accessible.
Yes, that is very, very important. And so, how do people? Well, is there a few things that you could recommend for people, developers, companies to do in order to make or to close the gap from what they have into a more mobile first, mobile happy, ready, mobile-oriented approach.
Change your career, go to backend. It's easier. Frontend is hard, you guys. Frontend is hard. Yeah, I think we already mentioned a lot of stuff. Like we already mentioned knowing the latest techniques on loading. I think it's crucial. Like you have to know images and lazy loadings and all those things that will impact performance in terms of load. That's number one for me.
Best practices. So there's a lot of guides that you out there that you can follow, that you can see what are the best practices, what are the things that you can do to do a more mobile-oriented, mobile-first approach. You should read them, follow them, try to follow them, and that will definitely help you out. But of course, first you need to check how mobile-oriented is your website. Google, precisely as you say, they measure the performance of the experience of the mobile version, and you can see what Google thinks of you. So you can go there to one of the page speed insights or another service and test your website for phones, and it will give you the information that it must say, hey, it will already give you the recommendations of things that you can do. And that would be, for me, the first step. That if you don't know what to do, go to a service like that, Page Speed Insights, put your URL and see what Google or these tools have to say. Most likely, there's a lot of things that are very simple to fix, and you should be working on that, definitely.
Yeah, I love the Core Web Vitals. One of the things I love more about the phone thing is the layout shift, right? When you are back to your article thing, you're trying to read the article, you start reading the article, and then suddenly the text jumps down because the ad was trying to be lowered before. That's the worst thing. Yep. And thankfully now Core Web Vitals will give you that bad score because of the jump. So yeah, please fix the jumping. It's awful. It's awful.
But I think that we're, although there's still a long way to go regarding on having a very mobile-friendly world, especially in a world that most people, the vast majority of the people, have used the phone or will use the phone at one moment or another to access the internet, and where most than half of the people are already using the phone as a main device to use internet. We still have a bit to go. And we should worry about that. And not only phone, there's other ways to access internet. We should be, it matters how the users are accessing our website, and we should make sure that it is accessible.
Yeah, I like this Japanese term that they say that the product should only look good but feel good. So how does it feel to use this product? So I would love for us to think more of, okay, let me use my website or my client's website on our phone. Do I enjoy navigating? If so, then it's fine. But if not, let's work on it.
Maybe it's time to change. No, and right now I think it's throughout the years, and the designers know how to do mobile first, so they should be knowing how to do mobile first. Developers know how to implement the mobile first approach. I mean, if you're not doing mobile first, it's because you really think that you don't need it, but most likely you do.
And with that, I think we're done, Chucho.
Okay. And right on time.
I don't know, for the folks at home listening, share your horror stories about mobile first in the comments. Thank you. Or tips, tricks, whatever you think it's useful for us to talk about. And Chucho, until next time.
Thank you, Ricard. Until next time.